3 nights in a row. 3 clear nights in a row. I cannot believe it. I cannot believe it. The luck of the weather. And I know it's just going to absolutely pour for the rest of the week. So, I'm happy with that. It's 3 clear nights in a row. It's absolutely amazing. Good afternoon, good evening, good morning, wherever you are. I am Tom. I am the Astro Canuck. And we are once again shooting live images from outer space in my back garden and bringing them live to your screens in living color. And I am already starting on a target just to kind of get things underway because the weather actually could turn. Now, right now it's nice and the weather is nice and clear. Once again, I'm batting with an even fuller moon now. I believe we are at, what's the 94%? 93% full moon. And not only that, I'm also combating some high winds. So we're at about 22 mile-an-hour winds. So we'll see how well the rig kind of holds up. But the fact of the matter is, we got clear skies. So thank you very much for tuning in. Bubba Zelnik, Old Balls, thank you very much. Good to see you guys in here. We have had quite an interesting night last night, where we had quite a few people drop in and seeing some new faces and some familiar faces from the astrophotography community. It was great to have some great conversations. And even this afternoon, I met up with a new community who really banded together, and I have reached another milestone on the road to affiliate, and I am over 50 followers now. I am at, what's the count, 54? 55 followers, and that's just absolutely incredible, and I appreciate that so much for everybody who has think just enough to think that I am just that much more, just enough of an interesting subject to click that follow button and kind of pay attention to me for a little bit whenever you get the chance. So I am, for probably a couple of times tonight, I'm going to run through just the latest number, because at the end of last night I was at about 30 some odd followers, and now I'm at 54 or 55. So yeah, just almost overwhelmed by that response that kind of has come in over the past 24 hours. Congrats, thank you. Thanks, Pops. So yeah, I got, if I have to, let's see, let's run down the list here. There is Third Rock Astronomy, Blakey 106, Febby's 97, The Lime Trees, Shinigami Ains, The Compy Gamer, Obsidian King, Escape Clothing, I guess, Lizard Kitty, Games in Around, DJ Amania, Misfit Act, The Warship. Actually, The Warship was the channel that I visited, and it's an Australian guy who is a former pro wrestler who has turned to streaming after unfortunately suffering a broken neck. And he's just got an amazingly positive attitude and a fantastic community that he's built up. And they were kind of part and parcel to the ones who have kind of helped me out with reaching this next milestone in my journey towards an affiliate on Twitch. Well, it's Capone Gaming, Fanboy ABCD. I'm walking here, Sperm of Zeus, Mr. Redcastle, Arta Sesnick, HD0H, Huma Dragonbane, McRiver Jr., Shidali, and yeah, that's everybody who has given some support and appreciation in the past I guess, 24 hours now. So it's great to see all those people who join in the community. And now that I have a little more of a community that's grown, I really got to think of a name for this group of people that I've kind of brought together to listen to me babble on about astronomy, and who are looking to be getting a little more information about the universe. So we'll give that some thought over the next week, because I know leading up to this, we are coming up to Halloween. There might be a little more phasmophobia during the week, because the rest of the weather is looking pretty ugly. So we'll just kind of play it all by ear and see how it goes, really. I am currently back in the constellation of Cassiopeia, and I'm imaging the Gamma Cassiopeia Nebula, which is kind of a combination of a reflection and an emission nebula. So I think it's all nice and framed up there. So we'll see how that looks. And I've tried imaging this one before, and I never had it lined up favorably. So I think that I have it all lined up. There is this kind of cross section. It's almost this Y, or almost in the shape of a flux capacitor from Back to the Future of stars, right in the middle there, and I'm using that as my point. Hello, James Vade. Thank you very much for the follow, and welcome to our community, which has no name yet, but I appreciate the follow there. And that sound that I have kind of set up, I did mention this yesterday, but it is, I'll play that one more time there, because a lot of stuff is gonna be space-based. And that is from NASA's SoundCloud archives, and that was part of the Juno mission. So during its close flyby from Earth in 2013, NASA's Jupiter-bound Juno spacecraft listened for and heard a coordinated global transmission from amateur radio operators using its radio and plasma wave science instrument. The message said "Hi" in Morse code. So that is the signal that came from Earth to the Juno spacecraft saying hi. So that's I think it's just an appropriate greeting for those who have joined the community. So that's your way of saying hi, and I welcome you guys at any opportunity. And yeah, like I was saying with these stars here in the center of the ASI air, just up over there in the corner, that is a 10-minute exposure that has just over a minute to go. And it's, pardon me, I really need a better mute button so I can cough. I was somewhere. Yeah, so I started this exposure just before we kind of got kicked off here. And I said that'll be 60 seconds, and we'll see how the guiding is holding up against the wind. There is some gusts that might be coming up to like 20 some odd miles an hour, but we'll see. Even last night I was looking on the Weather Channel or the Met Office website, and it did say that there's supposed to be some 20 some odd mile an hour gusts, and it didn't seem to be that much of an impact on things. But as we got 20 seconds coming up there. But before we jump to our first image, as you can see, the full moon, well, it's basically a full moon at this point. We're not going to be splitting hairs here. We are imaging tonight with the Altair Astro Richie Chrétien designed 8-inch telescope, and that's 200 millimeters for those who aren't mixing your metric and imperial. And we are imaging with the ZWO ASI 533 MC Pro cooled dedicated astronomy camera, and this camera has a 1-inch squared sensor that is much more sensitive than your regular DSLR sensors. So it's going to be able to pick up some much finer details, and also has the capability of being cooled. And I am currently have the sensor cooled down to minus 10 degrees. I've actually made sure that I have that ready to go. But that is our setup for the night. We will kind of periodically come back to the telescope and have a look at things whenever we're slewing to a new object, or if we're just kind of doing a cloud check. But we have an image ready of the Cassiopeia Nebula. And that bright star right in the corner there is Navi. And that star is part of the Cassiopeia constellation, that almost that W shape that you see up in the kind of the northeast part of the sky at this time of year. And that star is about 610 light years away from us, and it's got a mass of around 15 times our sun. So it is a very large, hot star. And that's where it kind of gets that, is a bit of a bluish tint to it. So you can kind of start to see a bit of that emission nebula down the bottom right area. And I'll just do a little histogram stretch on there to be able to see how well. I'm still, while I am using a filter that's only letting in certain bands of the visible spectrum, it is still, I'm being overly, overall I'm being affected by the full moon at the moment, because that's going to take a little while to kind of go behind the neighbor's house and just kind of get out of my, stop impacting my field of view. But we'll, like I said, we got clear enough skies, so I'm going to do as much as I can and really not fuss too much about the moon trying to ruin my night. We're not letting the moon ruin our night. This is like I said, this is a combination of a reflection and emission nebula, so it's a bit of a mixed bag in this area, which it would do well with using, and you can just see just how bright that star is on the corner there. And before I kind of get more into the image, actually a bit of, let me get it in the right spot there because my face is in the way. The target right now, I'm doing 10-minute exposures of certain objects in the sky. Right now I'm on the Gamma Cassiopeia Nebula, just in Cassiopeia. But just a quick kind of example of an idea of what I'm not having in my images using this type of camera is the amp glow that comes with some other dedicated astronomy cameras, where you'll see almost a flash on the side of your image, which just kind of comes from the on the circuitry that kind of creates this heat and this signal that comes out from the electronics. Whereas the camera that I have now, it doesn't have any amp glow. They've improved the technology, and you're able to get a nice clean image the whole time, no matter what length of exposure you have. So actually having this the star Navi in the corner there was a bit of a good indication of what we have going on. So because I'm using the Altair Astro tri-band one-shot color filter, like I said, I'm only getting the hydrogen alpha, the oxygen 3, and the hydrogen beta, and they're at about 12 nanometers wide each signal there. and the O3 and the hydrogen beta kind of mix together, so you have a bit of a wider band pass in that section there. And there are other filters that have kind of come out that are just doing very narrow 2-band passes, and you're just eliminating that hydrogen beta altogether. So you're kind of getting a lot more contrast in your images, which is which I've seen like some amazing results with these filters. And really right now those dual band pass filters are a little hard to come by at the moment because everyone's snapping them up as soon as they can come in. So I'm always keeping my eye out for something like that. Cass is one of my favorite regions because it's around most of the year. Yeah, I love that section, and there's just so much in that area. The surrounding nebulae that's around there is amazing to capture, and it's great for deep field. It's great for wide field. It's a really versatile section of the sky, and much like Orion, when that's up, there's so much to see in there. And I've been really happy with a lot of the images that have come out of that region of the sky lately, and it's kind of just almost coming out of view for me at the moment there. So let me see if I can just kind of tease out a little more details on that there. Because again, I'm dealing with a bit of the... So we do have this... this section of the nebula there. And let's see if I got a little bit of information. So the Gamma Cassiopeia Nebula is classified as IC 59 and 63. And so about 600 light years away, the intense bath of radiation from Gamma Cassiopeia is evaporating its two nearby neighbors. The leading edges of IC 59 and IC 63 glow strongly, hinting that these clouds will soon be blown away into the interstellar medium. So the shape that you're kind of seeing, the way how this is formed, it is because the radiation is kind of blowing those clouds away. And yeah, it definitely would be a target where you would want to do your broadband and narrowband to kind of pull out all the details here. But I thought this was a section that I was just starting the night off on, and really because Navi was my star that I was making sure I was in focus on. So this was just a very quick scoot to the left there. Sardwalk, what's that imager link go into there? I actually don't have a capture window open at the moment. So overall, actually, guiding doesn't look too bad. It's a little shaky because, like I said, there's 20-mile-an-hour winds, which should be calming down in about an hour, I think. Really, well, I say calming down to about 18, 17 miles an hour. So that's we'll deal with that as they come there. Thank you for those who have just popped in the stream there. We are taking live images of outer space, and I am doing these in 10-minute increments and just picking some different targets around the night sky. And we are looking at currently the Gamma Cassiopeia Nebula in the constellation of Cassiopeia. So I am going to be picking a new target now, and we will kind of move on to another part in the sky. Let's see what is kind of in the area there. Now we did do the Fishhead Nebula last night, and a little bit of the Malot 15, which is the kind of the heart of the Heart Nebula there. and a small portion of the Sol, but there is another section of the Sol Nebula that I want to image, because it's, like I said, it's a little more interesting with the star forming regions in that area. So just to give you an idea of where we are in this target right now. That we're in Stellarium right now, kind of looking from my virtual back garden, and that moon that's going to be interfering for some of the night. But if we are looking to the east, we do have quite a bit. You heard me planning out a 16-degree image of the bottom of Orion. Hope I can do it this year, weather depending, of course. Yeah, so okay, so that's part of your plan there for your Orion project. So that would be kind of somewhere in the, you said you're in the lower corner around Soph, I guess. Looking somewhere around there. I think that I had a rather ambitious plan of doing a very large mosaic of Orion, and however last season I was basically clouded out for quite a long stretch of time when Orion was nice and high and visible in the sky. So I kind of had to change things up a bit there, and Orion was almost leaving the night sky by the time I was actually back out in a more consistent time in the winter. So it was a little disappointing last season. So hopefully things kind of pick up, and we'll be able to get a little more time in this section of the night sky, especially with having the new scope available. You know, I want to be able to get as much time on some targets to get close up on some more targets there. So this was the area that we were on there, the Cassiopeia Nebula, and yeah, as you can see, it's a little more pronounced in Stellarium, but something like that, it's going to be, you need a little more integration time on there. So the Horsehead on Orion would be centered, and the rest of the lower loop is what I have planned. Okay, cool. That sounds, I mean, any large mosaic is going to be a real test of your patience and really relying on the weather. So hopefully that kind of turns out well for you there. Definitely be interested in kind of keeping up on that project of yours. So let's see what is on the other side of the meridian. I think I will jump into that part of the Sol Nebula that I wanted to capture last night. So we'll move over to that. And I just saw a little, not an error with the air. But we'll see. So yeah, the weather was rough. I only got 4 hours on the Horsehead with all the rain and clouds. Started the Orion and Running Man, but never finished it due to weather. Yeah, that you're the weather, we're so dependent on the weather, basically anywhere in the world, and there's not many places where you can really rely on the weather to be in your favor. And it just seems more often than not that if it's a little cloudy, as soon as you bring out the equipment, it's just all the clouds come in. Or the chances are, if it's clear and you take the equipment out, the clouds roll in anyway. So it's always tough to gauge that. But yeah, if you're fortunate enough to be able to have built an observatory and there's almost minimal time to kind of set up, and you can start imaging at a moment's notice, and that's much more favorable. Whereas some people need to stow their equipment away the same, set it up and take it down that same night. I used to do that for the longest time. And even now, just with having the scope cover on there, I'm up and ready in about 20 minutes, which is nice, barring any technical issues that may crop up. So I think with, like I said, with an observatory, you can just quickly roll off the roof or open up the dome, power everything up, and you're good to go. So yeah, it's just that kind of matter of convenience that you have available to you. So I spent 20 hours over 3 months during the summer on M16. It peaked at 28 degrees north for me. I cheated f1.9 with a 203.2 millimeter aperture with my old scope. At f1.9, at least you're not taking a lot of time on your integration frames there, because I'm shooting, the native focal length on the scope I have is 1600 millimeters at f8, but I've put a 0.6 reducer on there, so I'm shooting at 979 millimeters and 4.7 or f4.7. So that's sped things up considerably on this scope, and it's one of the widest apertures I've actually had in my collection so far. And I think right now this will be the widest aperture I'll use, kind of in a portable sense, until I kind of get things set up with an observatory in a more permanent solution. So we're going to a bit of a jump on the guiding there. I'm going to jump, actually, before I forget, I'm going to save that down so we have that for our records later. Where is the picture of aliens? We haven't found any yet. We're searching. We're always keeping an eye out there, but you'll be the second to know. I'll be the first. You guys will be the second, because I'll kind of see this first, and then you'll get the images out there. But Cursed on Duty, thanks for stopping by. Appreciate that. So let's head on over to Soul Nebula, which is not too far away from where we're at right now. So the scope doesn't have too far to travel. And I am looking at the scope camera. However, just the way how the cameras are set up, I'm not. So I'd have to go like this and not look at anything and say, oh, that's working well. And meanwhile, the whole scope could be spinning around and I don't know it. So. Right, now I know this was the section that we shot last night. And let's go back to I'll stop guiding for a second there because I don't need to be guiding at the moment. So this section that we did image last night, I'll find that image. We'll just kind of have a quick peek at this that section. That was, I was back. That's a wide field version of it. It's weird that that's in there. So yeah, that was last night's image of the Sol Nebula. Yeah, last night was the 27th. So I do want to kind of aim a little farther down in that area because, like I said, I do want to capture something a little different in that area there. So I'm going to go back and we'll slew just ever so slightly to a new spot there. And what I like about the ASI Air is that you can click and hold, and there is your new center point. So I shot 180 seconds on M16 with the Horsehead and found the limit was about 300 seconds due to the cables in front of the corrector plate. Alright, because otherwise it just starts interfering too much with things, or do you not want to get heavy diffraction spikes on your images? Alright, we are just going to do a couple more adjustments there. Now also I could enter in the coordinates manually. However, being able to illustrate what can be done with the ASI Air, and also from your, the comfort of the of my kitchen studio, it's just a little more favorable. So I think, let's see, just measuring up the stars there. That is, looks like that's about where I want to be. So we'll make sure that's all lined up, and we'll see how this kind of works out there. So is the ASI Air its own imaging software, or do you still need to run software like Nina, Sequence Generator Pro? No, it's its own imaging system, all wrapped up into the little Raspberry Pi controlled computer, and there isn't any kind of plans for mosaics on here yet, or at least it hasn't been implemented. But that is something that I would like to be able to do, that or at least to kind of plan your night. So if if you're going to bed and you're letting the rig run and your target is going out of sight, you want to start on something new. That's one of the features, kind of like one of the most asked for features now. All right, I will have a look at that in just a second there, because then maybe I'll get a another window kind of set up so we can have a look at these images. Sup, Compy Gamer, coming in from Warships Group, appreciate that. I am not playing at the moment. I am shooting live images from outer space. We are controlling things with the telescope seen here, just to my right, or on my left you'll find my right, on my right you'll find my left. And we are currently looking at a new target to shoot, which is a nebula up in the region of, not Cassiopeia. Okay, it isn't Cassiopeia. So we're shooting a nebula right now, which is about, what's the distance? I've said this distance, man. It's about 7,000 light years away from Earth. So we are imaging a very large structure. In space with a telescope and a camera. So like I said, I think I'm all centered on where I want to be for this part of the image. I could take a longer exposure and confirm, but it looks like we're where I want to be. So we'll start that up there. We'll get that going. Then I'll have a look at the that Horsehead Nebula image. All right, guiding is going, so we'll see how that goes. All right, that's pretty cool. Yeah. Hopefully you like it. Maybe stick around. Yeah, appreciate that. I do this any chance I get with when I have a clear night. And just what I want to do is just to be able to bring bring some space to your screens. So if you may not even have a chance to kind of get out there and look up, maybe you're in a really high light polluted area, or maybe you just haven't had the means to look into deep space. That's what I want to do, is just to be able to bring some images from the universe to your screens from my telescope. And these are live images, so it's not a kind of series of images that I've taken pictures of previously and then processing them. These are the single exposure images that are coming out of my camera directly, and we're just kind of enhancing the histogram level, so you can just get the contrast adjusted so you can see the image a little better. But what I want to be able to do is just, like I said, just kind of show you guys the images from outer space, and just be able to share this with you, because I think when I first looked through a telescope and I was witnessing, I was looking at the moon, and I thought, this is amazing, I want to show more people. So it was just that I almost felt selfish, so I want to share as much as I can with you guys. So Kiz, thank you very much for the follow. Welcome to our community, our unnamed community. We'll get that sorted out pretty soon, as things have been kind of increasing in popularity at the moment, and I appreciate all the follows and support that people have been given in the short time that I've been doing this on Twitch. Went to click follow, already following from earlier. Well, hey, at least you doubly wanted to follow, so you're very sure that you want to be sticking around here for a bit. Thank you very much. Have you seen the crack on the moon? No. I haven't heard anything about this. The moon has an expanding crack on it. I would have to look into that a little more. All right, let me have a look at the moon is resting. Yes, I have. I do like when people take images of doing like a mineral moon, where you can kind of see the iron and the titanium oxide stains, as it were, on there. So it's so you're not just getting that kind of gray and white image. You're seeing those the colors from the minerals that are kind of popping through there. So it's 6:22 in the morning, and I haven't slept, so I don't know how long I can stay. Hey, just stopping by is enough for me. I thought, thank you very much for tuning in there. We got about 5 minutes until this image is complete, so if you can keep your eyes open just for 5 more minutes, we'll be able to see part of the Soul Nebula, and hopefully that kind of is going to turn out really well, because it is it's got a nice brightness to it. It's not one of the brighter nebulas that I have available tonight, but I think it's a nice one to kind of start with earlier in the evening now. So we'll see. That's yeah, just 5 minutes and that image is ready to go. Right, link's legit, but yeah, she was telling me about it, so you can stay for 5 minutes. Cool, appreciate that very much. So let's, I'll just show you in. Hi, Bubba Zelnik. I see you. I saw you earlier in the night there. Thank you for sticking around. We have, like, I've been rather fortunate with some people sharing this channel around in the past few days, and I appreciate it very, very much. And yeah, it's just like if there was one person here, I'd be happy to talk with them. And we got 9 people in the chat right now who are watching, and I appreciate all of you who have come in to listen to me ramble on about space and astronomy and look at some interesting pictures from the universe. Yeah, Warship stream was packed. That's true. I came into his stream on a raid from Ghost in the Machine earlier, and another Australian streamer who has a really fun looking stream. Some interactive elements on there too, which is cool. And yeah, we came in on a raid, and there was about 20 or 40 people in his room at the time, and they got up to 90 people. And that kind of petered out, and then there was another raid popped in on his channel, and there was about I think about 130 some odd people at that time. It was amazing. It was just a really good feeling of that community. So kind of really happy to have joined in at that time, and the numbers really didn't drop out after that, which was really interesting, because usually you see a raid pop in and there's tons of people in a room, and then they all kind of, you know. So I think it was really cool that a lot of people stuck around, and yeah, it's a great community that he's built up, and it's about 9 months that he's been doing it, and he reached 1,000 followers while we were there. So it's yeah, just really cool to see some of the communities that come together on Twitch. So yeah, followers all over the world. Yeah, that's pretty incredible, and I do hope that I have more people kind of come around from any point, because, like, let's say if there's people from anywhere in the southern hemisphere, I'm showing images that they really wouldn't have access to visually. So it's that kind of sharing of the sky that I want to be able to do. Yeah, I've been trying to help. I got 3 people to 50 and 1 to 500, and just like helping the community. We'll send my space friends in here. I thank you so much. I do appreciate that. I really can't thank people enough for just kind of the support that's been given out, and yeah, just really impressed with the community spirit that kind of pops out from all these different pockets on Twitch, and I think it's really, really good. And you can kind of, it's nice when I pop into someone's stream, and you can just tell they're just a really genuine person who's happy to be doing this. And yeah, I just kind of hope that I can communicate and express those feelings just as well as they can. Like I said, it's I've been doing this for a bit of a month, just a better part of a month now. So just trying to be able to share my excitement about all this, and yeah, we'll see how it goes. I've been happy with things so far. Hasn't been any I've had a few nights that have gone to pot, where I've gotten set up and the clouds have rolled in, and that was it. I got maybe 2 minutes on the Andromeda galaxy, and that was it. I had a fuzzy image for the rest of the stream, and I just kind of rambled on for the rest of the time. Just had to make the most of it, really. Kids, Love me some space stuff. Excellent. And you're in the right spot. You're in the right place because I love space stuff too. And no matter what you're doing, you're enjoying it, so just don't stop. Nah. Kiz is your space nerd, and you're a dino nerd. I gotta say, yeah, when I was in grade school, it was dinosaurs for me as well, and always that little bit of space from seeing the Hubble telescope images in like National Geographic magazine, and always wondering, like, is that really what we're seeing out there? And eventually, once I got in astrophotography and realizing that those are false color images, but those are still the structures that are out there. And what I'm doing with these images, it is more of a closer to, I guess, a true color, because those photons are coming in through the filter that are being represented in the red, green, and blue. So you're seeing our stars are white stars, we have blue stars, and we have red stars in the image. So it's closer to a better color representation of what's coming out of the camera right now. Whereas if you're shooting with different filters and you're assigning them to different colors, it's meant to bring out just some different features in those structures out in space. So we are finished on this nebula right now, and I'll quickly jump over to Stellarium, which is a free bit of software that you can get, just to kind of give you guys an idea of where we are in the night sky right now before we look at our image. So we are in, let's turn on the constellations as well. So we're in Cassiopeia, and there's the Heart and Soul Nebula. So this is the image of the sky that we're just going to be shooting, and hopefully I'm kind of in this area that's in the center here, and that's also show you, sorry, getting too close in there. This red box around there is going to be the size of our the level of zoom and our sensor size on the camera. So this is the tiny bit of area of the night sky that I'm imaging, and hopefully I'm in this exact section where I want to be in, because I think that's a little interesting area out of the thing there. So let's go over to our actual image coming out of the camera. So kids, I remember my mom got me a space encyclopedia when I was little, and being in awe of everything out there. Same way. It just always was totally enthralled. I think my most vivid memory has to be seeing the pillars of creation in the Eagle Nebula, and just how amazing that picture was from the Hubble Space Telescope. And it's a section of the night sky that, to me right now, is actually the whole season or year round it's unavailable to my scope. So it's one of those areas of the sky that I just really want to be able to image myself, rather than, it's great to see what everybody else has done with the image, but again, the whole idea of making this connection with the cosmos is that these are my photons. You know, these are, for everybody tuning in, these are our photons that we're capturing in the camera. And you know, it's that the time it's spent to get the telescope set up, or even just the 5 minutes that we've been waiting for this image to come through. And I'm going to go back to this image right now, because I know if Kp is going to fall asleep, I want to be able to share an image here. So it looks like we are in the section there. So this is kind of what we see coming immediately out of the camera. And usually with astrophotography, you want to take a series of images and stack them on top of each other. Okay, good, you're still here. You want to take them and stack them on top of each other and build up that information in the image, because there is going to be inherent noise, or even some images where a satellite has gone through, and you're basically getting rid of that frame for the most part. and you want to be able to just improve as much of that signal coming through your camera and avoiding all the noise. So I mean, you look, just zooming in here, it's almost hard right now to kind of pick out a lot of that grainy noise because this camera is cooled to such a low temperature at about 10 degrees below zero Celsius. And what that does is kind of gets rid of any of the thermal noise that builds up in the camera as you're taking a long exposure. So you're left with what's a much more smoother image in the sense that you're not dealing with any of that that grain and the noise that comes through, say with the DSLR, if you'd like a dark night shot with it. So cooling the sensor is a big thing with the dedicated astronomy cameras. That really helps out brings out the details in your image. And for the most part, even with the bit of the wind, I'm seeing stars that are nice and round, so I'm not concerned about guiding at all. But being able to see some of these details that are immediately coming out, like I only recently moved to an astronomy dedicated camera in about March, April, and just that switch from a DSLR where I had very poor signal to noise on all my images, so I was taking a lot more time to get an image that was maybe half as good as, you know, almost one image out of this kind of camera. So I'm very happy with this purchase, and it's been like a marked improvement in my astrophotography. Kiz is crying because she hasn't seen them this detailed. I am totally in awe of this camera, and I think any movement from a DSLR to a dedicated astronomy camera, basically, you know, not being concerned about any brand, is you're moving to a camera whose sole job it is to bring you these images. And so just scrolling back up there, the Eagle Nebula is one of your favorites there, Third Rock, and if you can keep getting images of that, that's fantastic, because it's one of my more sought after targets, because it's just I'm blocked. I have nothing of Sagittarius in my view. It's that part of the Milky Way is obscured by trees and houses, unfortunately for me. So I'm gonna let's do a histogram stretch on here and start bringing out some details in this image. And it's only a 10-minute exposure, but I'm happy with a lot of the details that come out there. And while it can be still a little noisy, it's just one of those things that yeah, that's exactly the spot that I wanted to be shooting at. Now we do have a bit of a kind of a gradient on there, but that's just from the full moon and their street lights. It's so pretty. Well, I'm glad you like that, Kiz. Glad you're able to stop by and come in at a time when I've got a nice, interesting nebula on the screen at the moment. So, yeah, very happy to share this image with you guys right now. Now, I am controlling my ASI Air with BlueStacks and Android emulator, and it can be a little fiddly sometimes, but that's yeah, that's the section that I'm looking for there. You assume it's expensive. The camera, it's about the same price as a DSLR camera, but the only thing with an astronomy dedicated camera is you do need another device, like a computer or even like the Raspberry Pi controlled ASI Air or a Stellarium or something like that, where you can plug it in to a source, because there's no view screen or anything on these cameras. But it's the prices are for a CMOS sensor camera, I think the prices are fairly reasonable for what you're getting out of it there. If that's what you're going to want to be shooting, is, well, space. Let me scroll back. So I have to say though, for imaging, I prefer DSLR. For lunar imaging, I prefer DSLR, for the colors are better in my opinion, opposed to the dedicated Astro cameras, unless you're shooting mono. I haven't actually shot the moon with this camera yet, so I will, from what I've seen, because the moon is nice and bright, something like the DSLR isn't going to be fighting for getting any extra signal, or trying to fight with the like having a high ISO in there. And I think using a DSLR on the moon is totally fine, because I've got some great shots out of there with it. So I have done a makeshift imaging of Mars. That was earlier last night in last night's stream, when I kind of did a little MacGyver movement on there to get some Mars images through the ASI Air, the original. And I think the video mode is only on the Pro version right now. I'm not sure. I haven't actually seen if it's on here. If it's on this original version, I haven't seen where that button is to do video on here. All right, if you're going to lurk, that is cool, Compy. Thank you very much for stopping by there. I appreciate that. And yeah, hopefully see you around again. We'll in either here or Warships. So take care. We'll see you. Two Socks, how are you? Good to see you coming by there. So there's no option for a direct connect with it to a PC with the ASI Air. No, I tried that. I tried just plugging it in through the Ethernet cable, and that didn't register anything on there. So when I first started doing this, I had my tablet working with the ASI Air, and then I was running TeamViewer to send the signal to my laptop and from the tablet, so I was able to at least mirror that while I was doing the live streams. And that that didn't work out too well, because TeamViewer kept dropping out rather frequently. So I was trying to figure out what other options I could do, and I was trying to find out different screen mirroring programs for the Huawei tablet, and nothing worked. Absolutely nothing was working with that. So I don't know if it's just their version of the Android operating system that just doesn't jive with everything else. But finally, what I ended up doing was downloading BlueStacks, getting the ASI Air program on there, having my laptop's Wi-Fi connected to the Air, and then I have my direct connection to my modem through the Ethernet cable, and here we are. And I'm able to control everything, and I'm happy as Larry right now. So I couldn't get the colors around the darker areas on the moon to show the rusty red. I could only get the blue, black, gray to show with the ZWO ASI 183, the previous version for the 533. Yeah, I was actually, when I was looking to get a dedicated astronomy camera, it was kind of between the 183, the 294, and then once for the most part, the 533 wasn't totally on my radar, and it wasn't until I saw a lot more people reviewing it, and I still wasn't convinced by that square size sensor, and it took me a long time to kind of come to terms with this square sensor on the camera, and now I don't even think of that. Like, that's not even a concern for me now. So it's kind of one of those things that I don't even know why I was really fretting about this. So it's yeah, I mean, it's turned out really great And I think the first image I really, the first image I took with the 533 was the Crescent Nebula, because I had just previously done a 24-hour exposure, 24-hour composition of the Crescent Nebula with my DSLR, and I was going to try to do the same with the 533. However, clouds. But what I did get with it was pretty impressive. So I'm happy with that. The Pelican Nebula and the North American Nebula were kind of the next ones on my target list there. So it was just, and most of those nights were just let's pick a target and shoot it. Let's pick a target and shoot it. And that's almost where this kind of really grew from, because I realized with this camera I was able to do a lot more with it. And there wasn't any like I said, no amp glow on these series of cameras, so you're not dealing with any kind of ugly artifacts, as it were, that would kind of cause, it just wouldn't make as much of an enjoyable image, I feel. So in that respect, I'm really, really pleased with this purchase there. So the square sensor, no lie, was a turnoff, but then I became a photon snob and got tired of the amp glow, not always wanting to calibrate that out. So I went for the APS-C size, since there's a rumored mono version coming out. Yeah, I think there was that, I guess, that bridge between the old technology and the new stuff that people weren't too sure about. And yeah, I think for me, what I want to do, this was the absolute correct purchase. I think any other purchase that I made would have been all right, but I wouldn't have been as happy with it. So I think yeah, it comes down to what your end goals are for photography. And yeah, my goal is this, to be able to share some quick images with people. And I say this is a quick image. I've actually been on this section for quite a while there, but sorry, it just looked like things cut out there for a second. Reconnection successful. Are we still there? We're still working? Looks like it. All right, cool. Yeah, I've never had that alert come up before. Boy, I don't like when that happens. All right. Apologies for that. So the cluster of the Nebula 1848, the cluster is mildly conspicuous, a rich but not compressed swarm of 11th magnitude and fainter stars. At least 24 stars may be counted in a 12-degree area. Outside the main concentration, there are other 50 stars in a 30-degree area. Both the 7th and 8th magnitude stars are in the cluster core, surrounded by groups of fainter stars. So it's a very active and wonderful looking star forming region in this area of the sky. It's one of those targets that's great for wide field. It's great for deep sky imaging, because there's tons of details that you can pull out there and resolve. And yeah, I'm just happy with overall the star colors that I'm getting straight out of the camera. Because with the previous broadband filter that I had, I was getting a overall cyan color looking hue around all the stars. I just couldn't always calibrate that out with the DSLR. And even after using that filter before, that was the Astronomic CLS XT filter, using it with this ASI 533, I was getting better color calibration out of it, because I guess using all these instruments that are the ZWO products kind of combined there, it knows what the white balance is, what the color calibration is going to be out of the camera. Hey, James Vade. So great stream. Got to go buy a telescope. I'll be back when I get it. All right, cool. What are you looking at to get? What are you thinking? I know there's no one right telescope for the job, but there's going to be the right telescope for you. And I've always heard people say, you know, the right telescope is the one that you're going to use the most. And again, something like that comes down to what your goals are. If you want to have a more forgiving, if you're doing imaging, if you want something more forgiving, go with like a really wide field telescope, you know, or when you're doing deep sky images, you kind of got to get a mount. Like the mount is going to be your more important thing above all, so it's kind of a little more research intensive. But I've been doing this for the better part of 4.5 years now, and just constantly researching as much as possible and kind of getting advice from other people and learning about their experiences, which might be kind of similar to mine. The old Stellarium 90. For a small grab and go for visual, maybe some moon photography. I have the Red Cat and a 135 telescope for deepish. The 135, would that be kind of like maybe about 800-900 millimeter focal length, or in that range maybe? Oh, 130. Sorry, that's your focal length of 135 millimeters. Okay, gotcha there. Sorry, I thought you were mentioning talking aperture on the telescope, so I was thinking something along like the Skywatcher Esprit or Explore Scientific refractor there. So yeah, okay. 135 millimeters is good for a lot of nebulae as well, because that is a really wide field image, and yeah, you can get some interesting stuff with that there. So let's see if I can just tune this up a little more before I save it. And that's the part of the Soul Nebula that I kind of wanted last night. So I'm happy to get it now. That's with this kind of focal length, I would want to do a bit of a mosaic on this as well. And had I not been doing this and known that I was going to have 3 nights in a row of clear skies, then I would definitely work on a mosaic for this part of the sky, because in my field of view, it's readily available for pretty much the entire night. And it's those kind of targets are where I kind of all of a sudden get, 15, 18, 20 some odd hours worth of exposures, and I don't even realize it. It's just one of those things where living at the latitude that I do, I am favored with much longer winter nights. However, once the summer rolls around, I don't even get, the sky doesn't even become dark enough to reach astronomical dark, and that lasts for about 6 to 8 weeks, and those are some long weeks without some proper astrophotography. So you got to really pick your targets carefully, so you don't need to just have the sky impact on your photos, so you barely see, you can see the gradient in your photos as the night goes along, kind of change from lighter to darker, back to lighter, and it's never really truly dark sky. And I myself, I don't live in a dark sky site. I'm in a Bordeaux 5 area, and probably borderline 6. So it's not the darkest sky, but on a nice and clear, calm night, I do see quite a few stars, and it's not too bad seeing wise in this area. So I'm just counting any little favors that I can get from the sky that'll help me out with the imaging there. So let's have a peek at another area of the sky. I'm gonna try for, I'm gonna do it one more time. I keep doing it to myself, and I want to get the Embryo Nebula. Because the other night I tried to image that and it wouldn't, it just wouldn't come out. Or sorry, not that it wouldn't come out. The mount wouldn't, the ASIR for some reason wouldn't confirm that it's on the target. So I had to kind of keep moving around, and it never settled on there. So I'll give it one more shot tonight, and if it does conk out, we'll move on to another target there. But I do want to be able to try and shoot that. And that's not it. All right, just want to make sure I got the target right. So that is NGC 1333, which in having a look in Stellarium, is just kind of nestled between the Pleiades and the California Nebula. So this is another one of those combo emission and reflection nebula that I really hope is going to show up. So yeah, it's just above the star Attic, and which kind of lies between the California Nebula and the Pleiades. Now I have shot this inadvertently in a wide field image a couple years, about 2 or 3 years back now, and it was just this faint little kind of smudge of color in my image. So I was yeah, kind of interested to be able to shoot it in a little more detail. So let's I'm going to give it one more shot there and see if we can capture that there. There, we'll save that that image there, and let us see if that will actually work, because that'll be great. That'll be all right. Let's cancel that. Let's do we've saved that image down. I'm just going to do a 5-second exposure, and we're going to plate solve so that the mount knows exactly where it is, where it's pointing, what we're looking at, so that when it slews over to the Embryo Nebula, it will know just how far it's got to go. Let's sync that there. And we'll pick out NGC 1333. And we see it in our little picker there. That's a processed image of the, let's see if will that show up there, of the Embryo Nebula. Now you can see the blue is basically kind of going to be associated with the reflection. So the star is kind of is illuminating the gas and dust in the area, and where there is the reds, you're getting that hydrogen gas that's being excited by the radiation kind of given off by any stars or in the star forming region there. We'll choose that and hope that it works. So let's all right, we have done our place, so we'll do it again. And so now we know where it is, and make sure that the scope, the scope also did kind of go a little crazy last time I did this. So I'm going to keep an eye on that. But we know where it's going. Sounds like it's reached its target there. So this is where everything kind of holds up. It'll do the... Alright, it hasn't done any imaging there, because I have done the plate solve and then moved over. So let's see if we are in the right spot, if it's happy with that. Alright, not a lot of movement there. So it should be centered on the target now. All right, we're guiding once again. There we go. Okay. All right. Things are, let's do a quick 10-second exposure there and see. Let's see how that looks. Maybe we can kind of see maybe a little bit of faint bit of the nebula within there. Now, okay, all right, that looks like all the stars in the image there are what we're looking at. So let's have a look there. Now it looks like sometimes the guiding is being impacted by the wind. However, guiding is still looking good regardless of the little bit of the wind gusts. So it hasn't been a big issue throughout the night. So I can almost see that. I don't know if you can see it on your screens, on the SI air, that there's almost a little bit of blue in the middle there. So let's get this going, because this is another one of those targets that I haven't really imaged. And last night, the end of the night, when I shot the Monkey Head Nebula, I thought that was a target that I never imaged before, and I might go back to that near the end of the session tonight, just to kind of recenter it in the frame and get a better view of that. So we can see that that's actually a fairly bright nebula in Orion. So that's kind of my first Orion target, and maybe kind of wrap up the night if it's we'll see what kind of time we get to with Lowers Nebula, and we'll see how that goes. For those of you who have just jumped into the stream, thank you very much for stopping by. We are taking live images of outer space with a telescope and a dedicated astronomy camera on a German equatorial mount. And currently we are imaging the Embryo Nebula, or the Phantom Tiara, depending on what name you're familiar with, and it's cataloged as NGC 1333. For those of you who are watching on the Astro Canuck's Facebook page, thank you very much for coming in. If you kind of really want to get in on the conversation, jump on over to Twitch, and we have our little chat bar that scrolls across the bottom there, and I try to read all the messages that pop through, and recently it's been almost overloaded and I'm getting used to following the chat. And for those of you who are watching on YouTube, again, if I miss your comments over there, I will check things out. I am also using YouTube as my archive for the for my videos that I'm putting out on Twitch, because I'm not being an affiliate, which I'm almost there. I have reached my 50 followers earlier today. And speaking of followers, TRG Twitch 1 has just given us a follow. Welcome TRG Twitch 1 to the community, the unnamed community at the moment. Appreciate your follow there, and we are glad that you are interested enough in space and astronomy to join our group. We are taking a single, what I do is I take single exposures that are about 10 minutes in length to kind of get as much detail as I can before maybe being impacted by wind, satellites, just the errors that come with a telescope mount. But just to kind of bring out details of objects in the night sky to show you guys live, essentially. So these images aren't, haven't taken pictures of these images before. I will let you know if we're looking at previous images, just to kind of give you an idea of what we've done in the past. But all these images that we're watching come through on the scope are live images that we got showing up there. So we are just about not even halfway through this image that we're going through now, which is the Embryo Nebula, and it's a kind of a combination of reflection and emission nebula, and that's it up there in Stellarium, the kind of the virtual planetarium program that is it's free to use and free to download, and you are able to just get a good idea of your of the night sky, of what you're looking at there. So the cool thing that I had discovered about Stellarium is that you can add your own images, your own back garden, your own backyard, depending on where you are. Let me bring that into daylight at the moment. Let's bring the sun up for a second there. Enough that we can still see space. But that is the view I have from my back garden. And as you can see, I have just a small window of the northeast in the eastern sky. That's widely available for me. But the rest of the objects that block my view are my house and a few well-placed large trees. So I get the most out of the night sky that I can from the eastern areas, and it's served me pretty well, because I do have the kind of the arm of the Milky Way that shows through, or that kind of comes overhead for me, and once galaxy season rolls around, I'm able to look out beyond our galaxy and look at some other galaxies within our view from that side. But we'll jump back to right now, and like I said, we are currently imaging the Embryo Nebula, which is one of those targets that I have never shot directly before. And this kind of red box that we're looking at around there, that is our camera sensor size and our focal length. So it is a very, very wide view, or sorry, a very narrow view of the night sky. So it's just covering that tiny little area, whereas sometimes with your other cameras you're going to have a much wider field of view, and you're going to capture more objects in the sky, but you're not going to get the details. Hey, Richard Dorset, thank you very much for joining our community. Once we get the name of the community, you're all going to know what it is. I'll think of something. We'll come up with a clever name for our group. But thank you very much for joining in. I'm very happy for you to stop by. And we are, like I said, we're imaging the night sky right now, and just below my image there, that is our live view of our telescope outside in my back garden. I am in the east of Essex in the UK. I am a Canadian/British citizen who just is enamored with the universe, and I just want to do what I can to share it with you guys as much as possible and as often as possible. Now this 10-minute image is just about done. We have just under 3 minutes to go on there. And once again, this is an area of the night sky that I haven't directly imaged, so I'm not sure what to expect out of this. And you know, it might be good, it might not be. It might be a little almost a little dim, because there are some objects in the night sky that just require a lot more integration time, even more than a 10-minute image. Usually the emission nebula is going to be much more favored over a reflection nebula, just depending on the filter that you're using. So, because I am using a filter that is only picking out a very narrow band of the visible spectrum, I am kind of limited on what is going to show up really nicely. So something like a galaxy is better shot with a broadband filter versus this kind of narrowband filter. And I do have examples on my Instagram page showing direct comparisons between galaxies, and you can see just how much more detail is visible in a galaxy or a reflection nebula using a broadband filter versus a narrowband filter. And in those kind of cases, you do want to, if you're using a narrowband filter on a galaxy or a reflection nebula, you're almost using that just to kind of pick out any finer details, and you're going to use those images just to kind of accent your overall image in the end there. But what we're doing is just taking single exposure images, kind of getting interesting objects out of the night sky to have a look at. Maybe some you're familiar with, maybe some you never heard of, so making just more areas of the night sky accessible to you guys is my end goal here. And maybe you can't see these objects from where you are. Most of these aren't really visual targets either, and if you can see them, they're going to be a bit of a gray smudge because our eyes just aren't able to process these colors that are coming through and picked up on a camera sensor. So it's I think it's a bit of a valuable bit of insight on these objects there. And we are getting our image now that's coming through of the Embryo Nebula, and I'm going to take a quick look at the sky. It looks like we're okay. It looked a little hazy out possibly, but that may also be because of the moon and the angle that we're at for things. And it might just be at that angle where it is kind of glazing or grazing across the front of the telescope and causing some minor issues. But let's have a look at our image that's come out in out of the camera there, and it is a little hazy. So let's try it. Let's see what I can do about bringing out some details in there. Like I said, this was a kind of that combination of reflection and emission nebula, so it may be one of those things that's a bit of a, not a flop, but one of those targets where you really got to work for it. And just want to double check now. Actually, we may have some slight bit of clouds rolling in. Now, like I said, the weather was a little iffy, but I do want to try to grab a couple more targets there, and I may. And it does look like this area of the sky is almost inherently hazy, as it were. just because it's being illuminated by the stars in the area. But the density and dust in this region is great enough to cause many different effects of illumination and emission. NGC 1333 appears near the dark nebulae Barnard 1 and 2, and it appears as a 9 arc-minute oval with an 11th magnitude star embedded within the nebula. So the gaseous structure of NGC 1333 has also been mapped at radio wavelengths and suggests there is star formation as well. And the star forming region is located roughly 1,000 light years from Earth, harbors hundreds of newly formed stars less than 1 million years old. Many of these protostars exhibit energetic activity such as jets and strong stellar winds. So this, like they said, it is a star forming region, and it is one of those targets that definitely needs some finesse to get those details out of there. You can see kind of the red stars in the middle there. Those are kind of what are in the emission nebula area. And yeah, it's just one of those targets that unfortunately isn't as wonderfully detailed as we can hope there. But I'm going to move on to another target, which is a little more of a visual show. So let's pick out the tadpoles. That's NGC 1893. And this nebula is in the constellation of Auriga. So we're going to be moving a little more to the south in the sky. So we will plate solve on this image. It's doing that again where it doesn't want to do that. All right, telescope should know where it is, and we will move on to the tadpoles in Auriga. So I think there's something about that target that we were just on that seems to not want to work, doesn't want to play along with the software in the ASI Air, which I think is a little unfortunate, because that kind of robs me of a target that I do want to image there. But this one, the tadpoles, is a little more interesting, and I think that's going to be a much more interesting visual target for us to look at there. I think I might want to adjust that just a little bit and bring in kind of center on this section right here. Now the cool thing about the ASI Air is that you just do a long press on your tablet screen, or in my case on my with the laptop, and you just are able to tell it that this is the point where I want to center on, so it's going to adjust your scope accordingly. And it might be just a fine little adjustment, but that can also mean being able to bring out certain areas of your target that you want to image, even working in a mosaic, so you can kind of organize your shots manually to better frame things up. So we are guiding on a star that I am not happy with, because that just seems like it's a little too dim. Now there are some other guiding programs like PhD2 that can probably do a little better job with guiding. However, my experiences with that program have been it took a long time. It took me almost like 2 nights to kind of get used to that software and actually get my guiding working correctly. Whereas with the ASI Air, it just seems a little geared towards a little more user friendly, where it's taking a lot of the guesswork out of things, and pretty much right out of the box, I was able to start guiding almost right away, and that was one of the advantages of using a program like this, where sometimes you're outside with your laptop and your hand controller for your telescope, and it's you got a lot of equipment that's sitting outside there, and the advantage of that is that you are right there with your equipment, and you can quickly diagnose things that could be wrong with your system. Whereas if you're doing something like this, I'm inside the house and the scope is outside. Now I do have equipment to observe where things are at and what they're doing there. And for the most part, things haven't given me many headaches. There have been times when the scope has decided to go in a completely different direction, and that ended up being a bit of user error. Hey, Bubba Zelnik, still hanging around? Appreciate that. Thank you. Thanks so much, mother. Hey. Oh, such a nerd. Right, and that whole time I was banging on about things. I could have started our exposure of the of NGC 1893, which is also known as the Tadpoles, and you'll see when that image kind of comes through, you'll see a couple areas that look like tadpoles. So the now IC 410, or NGC 1893, is a region of faint nebulosity surrounding the open star cluster NGC 1893. It lies in the constellation Auriga, and which is just a few degrees east of the brighter and better known Flaming Star Nebula, which I did image the Flaming Star Nebula last night. And while we're waiting for that to show up, that image to show up, just above me here in Stellarium, I will jump over to Auriga, and we'll kind of get a rough idea of where we are. Now that is the Flaming Star Nebula, which is 5 light years across, and just down below is our target tonight. Frozen. Who's frozen? You're frozen? I'm frozen? Seems to be going all right. Give it a second there. We'll be back. And yeah, so this up just above me there, that is the tadpoles, and that red box is going to show roughly what we're going to see there. Now this color palette that's being represented here is closer to what is known as the Hubble palette, which is sulfur 2, hydrogen alpha, and oxygen 3, and those are assigned to different colors to create this image, which is almost like this rusty looking ethereal kind of image. So I do like the Hubble palette, and that is more easily achieved by using a monochrome camera. And you could do it with a one-shot color camera, but just the integration time might be a little different. Whereas with a monochrome camera, every bit of light that comes through is being captured at that wavelength, so you're not being hindered by a Bayer matrix in the camera, which usually goes red, green, green, blue. So you know, when you're shooting in hydrogen alpha, like instantly you're only getting a quarter of the information coming through, and the rest of that needs to be interpolated by the camera, which has improved rather remarkably with CMOS sensors as of late. Now we are, like I said, just halfway through there. And so in appearance, the IC410 resembles the Rosette Nebula in Monoceros. A medium-sized instruments show 40 faint stars elongated north to south, lying within a triangle of ninth magnitude stars. IC410 lies about 12,000 light years away and is over 100 light years across. It has been sculpted by stellar winds and radiation from embedded open star cluster NGC 1893. Formed in the interstellar cloud a mere 4 million years ago, the radiation from these hot stars pushes the gas away and creates dark tadpoles trailing away from the nebula's center regions. These streamers of denser gas resist the erosive radiation from the hot stars. The tails have grown to 10 light years in length and are potentially sites of ongoing star formation. So when we see this image come through, hopefully everything is going to look fairly distinct, and we're able to pick out some definite points there. But yeah, with this being so far away and so much larger, I think the Flaming Star Nebula is much closer to us, and it is, yeah, it is about 1,500 light years away. So this cloud, this star forming region of the tadpoles, while it looks smaller than the Flaming Star Nebula, with it being almost 10 times as far, and it's 100 light years across versus 5 light years across for the Flaming Star Nebula. So while we're looking at things from our perspective that seem to be this kind of flat 2D image, it's the distances that we just can't perceive with our vision is much greater. So while these two look like they are side by side, they're incredibly farther apart, yet they almost look to be about the same size, and even that the Flaming Star is larger. So it's interesting to see how that we just, at these distances, we have no depth perception, as it were, because we aren't able to move enough in either direction to kind of create that parallax movement and see just how much space is in between them. But with astronomers being able to judge the distance of stars using spectroscopy, you can judge the just how much time it's taking the light to reach your sensor depending on its redshift. We are about 3 minutes out from our image coming through there, and so far guiding doesn't look too bad. We're still under 1 degree of error, so I'm happy with that. Now, let's see. Yeah, I just want to make sure. Like I see the weather is looks like it's going to start playing up with us in a bit. We're in. Okay, now it's changed again, and I would say it's changed for the better, which is favorable, because initially it looked like we were almost expecting rain or some more clouds to roll through. So it looks good. Even the dew point is holding fairly steady. We're at 9 degrees right now, and the dew point's at 7. So it's just enough of a temperature difference to hold things off there. And at the end of things last night, I was starting to see a little bit of fogging on the lens, or on the mirror in the back of the telescope. So something like that, again, can be mitigated by a dew shield or a dew heater to kind of keep that mirror warm enough to fight off any condensation that might be building up on the mirror, or even with the guide scope, because if that starts getting too foggy, then I'm not keeping my guide stars and not going to be able to keep the scope guiding. So things can break down fairly quick there. No, I'm not running dew heaters. This is a new telescope for me, and it was kind of one of those things that yeah, I just haven't gotten to that point of investment on there. I had dew heaters for other scopes, but those aren't being in use now. They're just too small. So I do have a basket ready in with First Light Optics, with some dew bands and a dew heater controller that's going to work with all three telescopes, and I should be able to kind of even control it through the computer. So it's like the Lynx Astro. I don't know if you've used those, Third Rock. I don't know if that is a UK company or a North American company that makes those, but yeah, I'm using a reflector telescope. So it is the Ritchie Chrétien, which would just essentially be the GSO RC8, but it's Altair Astro branded. So yeah, I need to get set up with this just to kind of keep things at bay. It wasn't too bad earlier in the season, but yeah, now it's changed enough there. So I run a Pegasus Dew Master for now until I upgrade to a Power Box or an Eagle. All right, cool. Yeah, I was looking at a lot of the Pegasus Power Box controllers and things like that. That I wondered about getting something like that. I know, like, my first introduction to it was when I saw Astro Backyard, Trevor showing those things off, and I wondered, is that something that I want? And the answer was yes. Is that something that I need? Probably not at the moment, or at the time. And I think just the way how things are moving along with my setup, that these little things that I didn't think were going to be important to my setup are quickly becoming important to the setup, because if losing the half the night to having the scope fog up and that's it, it's I don't want that, especially when there's enough of a I have Astro Dark starts at 6:30 in the evening and lasts until about like 10 to 5 in the morning. So there's quite a long stretch of night that I want to do that. So the Dew Master's treated me well. It provides 12 volts of power to the camera for the cooler and 5 dew heater slots. I run it on auto and don't ever worry. I do like the idea of things that you don't have to be fretting about. Just one less thing to be on your mind while you're imaging there. So our image of the tadpoles is complete. And I gotta say, it looks better than I was going to, and I think we'll be able to pull a bit of detail out of there. So we can see some of there. So we are in the constellation of Auriga, just below the Flaming Star Nebula. And from what I kind of read up on this, being about 12,000 light years away. This whole structure is about 100 light years across. And like, that's way larger than the Flaming Star Nebula, which is only 5 light years across, and yet it looks much larger. So kind of dealing with those vast distances. Now I would run Space Engine, but unfortunately I've been having a bit of issue with it, almost namely that I haven't been able to pick out the targets that I've been targeting. Yeah, there's so much to go wrong with what we do. I agree, it's nice not to worry. Yeah, like anything and everything has kind of cropped up at some point. And I do those nights where nothing goes wrong, I wonder what's gone wrong. Like there are times when I have good now, bye bad. Okay, so everything's all good. That was just something that might have been on your side. All right, thanks for that. Thanks, Bubba Zelnik. The yeah, just those nights when I've set up the scope and all of a sudden I'm looking down at the level and it's already leveled. I haven't had to adjust anything. I'll set up the mount and it's almost close to polar alignment, and I'm only moving it just a little bit here and there. And you just got to wonder what's going down later. What's coming up? What's gonna absolutely ruin my night? And sometimes nothing goes wrong. You're just enjoying the hobby of astrophotography, and those are the nights that you always want those to happen. But then again, when something goes wrong, there is something to learn about it. And yeah, it's just yeah, just favorable there. Hi, the Aramil. Thank you very much for following. Welcome to our unnamed community. I am Tom. I am the Astro Canuck, and hopefully you want to kind of stick around and look at some images of space. We have just imaged the a nebula, which is nicknamed the Tadpoles. It's NGC 1893, and this is a 10-minute exposure that I'm just tweaking a little bit so we can kind of see some details in there. And I think for some of these images I am pushing the histogram as far as it'll go before everything kind of starts almost falling apart. But these two little structures here, those are what are referred to as the tadpoles. You can just, they have that you know, that little amphibious shape and wiggle looking design to them. And I do believe that it said, that description said that these were about 10 light years in length. Let me just double check on that there and confirm that. It is 12,000 light years away, this whole structure, 100 light years across. And yeah, the tadpoles, those tails on the tadpoles have been measured at 10 light years in length. So these are absolutely massive structures, as tiny as they look in any images. That these, and most likely these structures are probably not in existence, depending on how much of stellar radiation has kind of blown them away, because this is as it looked 12,000 years ago. You know, so this will obviously, you know, to have a longer span of time to look at these objects, that the Flaming Star Nebula will change a lot more in its appearance than the Tadpole Nebula is going to. Nope. Sorry, just trying to, on the wrong window there. So I get pretty close with level on polar alignment, but I took a page out of Trevor's book set up every clear night, and we'll continue when the new scope comes in. Not sure on your amount, but I went deep. The Losmandy G811G HD tripod with 12-inch 30.5 centimeter pier extension. I am running with a Skywatcher EQ6R Pro, and I do have the pier extension on there as well, and that is also in part because I need to see over the house and the neighbor's little structure right behind my back garden here. Otherwise, I wouldn't be able to really get many views, and even the legs on the pier or on the mount are fairly extended as well. So it's you know, I have a narrow garden, and everything is close to the house there. So it's, yeah, I just need all the height I can get to be able to get many views. And even this is kind of the only real spot that I can actually get Polaris in the viewfinder there. Everything else, the trees will start getting in the way. So luckily I have this one spot, and it's worked out pretty well for the past you know, I guess, well, how long have I had this mount for? When I had an Alt-Az mount, I could almost set up anywhere in the garden, and that was fine. It didn't impact things too much. But yeah, with this, even when I had the Star Adventurer, I was basically in this position as well, and I still needed to. I bought a little tiny mount, a pier mount extension on that as well. So, you know, a narrow and tall house is going to get in the way. But this is the Tadpole Nebula, which has turned out fairly well. I think, again, one of those targets that once you get a lot more integration on there, that these little tadpole structures are going to be much more pronounced, and like even like the dust, the clouds of dust are going to be that much more contrasted against the nebula itself, which is always going to be a better image in the end there. And I do, again, with the moving to a reflector telescope, just having those diffraction spikes, for some reason, in earlier photos that people would post, I never really was a fan of them, and I don't know what it was after moving to this scope, and it's, you know, it's my image, it just has that, I don't know, that the stars seem a little brighter. Maybe it also is just the configuration of the scope that I'm using, a reflector versus using a refractor telescope. But there is just something that's a little more I don't know, sparkly, majestic, I don't know. Let's just make the stars a little more attractive there. Yes, it looks like you have a similar gradient to me. What class of skies do you have over there? I am in Bortle 5, probably borderline 6, now that the my area has started putting in the LED lights, and they haven't put any shields on them, so that light is just going everywhere. Some of the lights that are behind my house, I do have the low pressure sodium lamps there still. They haven't replaced those yet, but in on the main strip, the main street in front of my house, it's all LEDs, and it is as bright as day out front there. And yeah, there are other people who do have some floodlights that they seem to like to leave on almost the whole night through, and it's not until about 1 in the morning when they do turn off all the street lights in the area, and that does improve the images almost drastically. There have been times when I've been shooting, and you know, the image ended at about a couple of minutes to, you know, to 1, and it's you know, it's a fairly almost washed out image, but you start the image after 1 o'clock once the lights go out, and it is a noted difference for just how much darker the sky becomes. So it's yeah, unfortunate that I gotta wait so long for the lights to go out, and but I am also fortunate that I do get that time without any street lights, so I may only be kind of dealing with some of like the larger roundabouts just a little farther up the way, but they're not going to be overall bright enough to impact on things there. So I wish we turned off the street lights in the U.S. Paul was telling me they do that in the UK and Netherlands. Yeah, it's I think that really should be done everywhere, not only just to conserve energy, but to preserve our night skies. And I know Sean Nielsen up in Canada for Visible Dark Astro, he is a really strong advocate for preserving our night skies and getting rid of light pollution. And I know there's some other groups that are trying to do what they can to cut down on the light pollution in the night sky, because it's not only impacting just the like for visual astronomy, but just wildlife and everything, nature in general. So it's those few hours when the lights go out, it's just that much more favorable for everything. And yeah, it's you gotta drive. So I have to drive 4 to 5 hours to get to a dark skies. But 2020 those spots have closed. Yeah, it's weird just how much things have changed for so many things, and in a way I've seen a bit of a boom with astronomy and astrophotography, because you know there's not a whole lot that we can do at the moment. And I really was almost thinking about doing something like this early on in when there was a lot of kind of nationwide lockdowns going on. But at the same time, I just didn't feel I was in a position to do something like this. And it wasn't really until, I guess, about a month ago when I started doing this. And in a way, I'm wondering, why didn't I start sooner? But also at the same time, I think this was the time for me personally to be ready to do something like this and bring out this, I guess, this level of production, as it were, which I'm still learning as much as I can every day about this, about using OBS and just making sure that everything runs smoothly. And yeah, there've been days when everything goes well. There's times when I'm dropping frames out of nowhere and everything else looks, pardon me, everything looks fine on the computer. So more research that has to be done along the way. And I am close to actually reaching affiliate on Twitch. So if I'm going to be offering out possible subscriptions on the channel, there are some more elements that I want to be adding to the channel to just have that little, just something else that I can kind of give back to the people who may want to support the channel in other ways. So it's a new level of research and I guess development of the channel that's going to be coming in the next few weeks. And also, you know, as picking a community name as well. Or maybe just remains the unnamed community for weeks and months on end. I don't know. We'll start a poll, put out a collection. I don't know. We'll see. All right. Let us find another target, because guiding. All right. I think I've discovered that there is possible where the periodic error in my mount is, because there is this little jump that I've seen before, and it is very distinct. So I need to look into that. It could be. It's most likely going to be a combination of the mount. I doubt it's the wind enough that's doing something like that right now, and something so specific. So we're on NGC 1893. Now I did, was I going for the Spider Fly Nebula last night? Or did I switch things up pretty quick? Now, you know, I think I'm going to go to the Crab Nebula, because I think that looks really cool. I've only imaged it one time before, and it was almost like on a whim. So let's go to M1. It's been imaged dozens and dozens of times. However, for me, I've only imaged it once for 10 minutes, and I like to look at it. I tried when it's my Star Adventurer Pro, I decided to overload it and throw my my Celestron 127 SLT on top of there, and I think everything was just overloaded. I could get maybe a 10-second exposure, and before anything started going crazy, so I had to I abandoned that pretty quick. M1, that's easy. And it was just this very, very faint blur that made absolutely no sense. So we will, let's hop on over there. And well, the scope didn't have to move all that much. Sorry, I missed one message there. So you decided on a payload of 55 pounds or 25 kilos was pretty much the max limit for a nightly setup. Otherwise, the EQ8R Trevor from Astro Backyard showed was what I wanted, but that thing weighed like 50 kilos. Yeah, that's that. I saw the EQ8R Pro at a astronomy show last November. I guess almost a year ago now. So yeah, that thing is a tank. And yeah, that is a mount that would not fit in my back garden. It would not work well in my house. So that is one of those mounts that is just going to remain on the shelf and look pretty, and I will let other people use that there. We have reached the Crab Nebula, and just want to make sure that everything is where it should be before we start imaging it. And again, the wonderful technology of a astronomy dedicated camera, when I'm on a 5-second exposure and I'm able to already start to see some of that nebula, that like its shape and its structure already, is incredibly satisfying. Right, sorry, the guiding went a little wonky there while we were taking our setup photo there. So for anyone who may have popped in on the stream recently, thank you very much for coming in. You're more than welcome to say hello in the chat. If not, that's all right. You're free to lurk. We are imaging the Crab Nebula, which is a supernova remnant, which was formed in 1054 AD. It was first discovered by Chinese astronomers and was kind of labeled as a guest star in the night sky because it was in an area where they knew there weren't any other stars, and suddenly this star appeared. And actually, if I wonder if I run the clock back in Space Engine, if it actually will show maybe some kind of progression of this supernova. Because I know in Stellarium, if you run the clock back to 1054, all of a sudden it's gone and then it's there. So maybe we'll do that while we're imaging there. We'll do a little history, run through history. So there we go. Let's get imaging on the Crab Nebula. So we'll let that run, and we'll jump over to Stellarium. And let's find the Crab Nebula. Let's go to Stellarium. M1. Right, now, I don't know if we can see. I guess I kind of got that hidden there. All right, excuse the. Now I might actually, this Stellarium might crash, but we'll see. Just running the clock back to about 1054. That is the year 1054, not the time on the clock. There, so this is the area of the night sky, and we're currently on the 17th of February, 1054 AD. Now, I'm trying to remember, I think it was in July when this happened, so let's I'm going to zoom out a bit so we don't get seasick. In fact, I'm going to jump back to this little screen so we got something else to look at just in case. So we're at April, May, June, July, and there we go. So running back the clock in Stellarium, you can also see a little bit of movement in stars if you go even far enough or far back into the future, and seeing just the way how the stars kind of move. Right, I keep blowing by the date there, but anyway, you can at least see in Stellarium there that it does show that in 1054 there wasn't this supernova in the area, and then suddenly there was. Now, this supernova structure itself didn't just appear like that in the night sky. There was still an explosion. There was still some expansion of the gas and from the star that was going to be developing over time. So this whole structure that we're kind of seeing right now is that 12 or that 1,000 years of expansion that has that's taken place since this star exploded. Now I will let's have a look at how much time is left on. Just over 5 minutes. So it's all right there. And I think I might, let's see how things go. I might end this stream at about 12:30. What time is it? Is it 12? Yeah, it's 12. Just it's as clear of the night is. Where's the dew point? What time was that at? Because that actually might change things a little bit, just to be sure. We are right. I have conflicting bits of information. Now we have absolutely crystal clear skies on one setting, and then a worry of 22% chance rain with no clouds in the sky at another one. Have I considered setting up a Discord? I have. I also don't really know what to include in a Discord, and I was thinking that something like that would be beneficial to even posting these 10-minute images that we do, just to kind of share them around on there so we can have a look at things. And I think I can probably even pull the FITS files out of here as well, and hopefully I can, and at least maybe people can kind of play around with those single exposure images and just see how much can be done with one of those there. So yeah, if you do have any experience setting up a Discord, I would be grateful if kind of let me know what steps are involved with that, and I'd be happy to set one up for the channel here. But yeah, I'm involved with a bunch of other people's Discords, and it seems like there's sort of setup one. It's a bit of a task. Okay, well I'll look into things. If it's all right with you, I'll kind of come to you with some questions. If that's cool, I'll work towards getting something set up, because if things are going to go well, I'm going to want to be able to give people some more incentive to kind of stick around with the community and just keep the conversation going. And there's a couple astrophotography, astronomy groups that I'm a part of that I just like to be able to share thoughts, experiences with. So we'll see how that runs there. So for those who are who might be watching on YouTube, who might have stumbled upon this, I'm mainly running through Twitch, but I am using YouTube as my channel for keeping these archives available. As right now with Twitch, I'm only able to keep these VODs online for 14 days, and then they disappear. And I am also streaming live through my Facebook group, the Astro Canuck. And if you guys are watching on there, I do apologize if I've missed any messages. I will reply to those in time. But yeah, I just want to be able to kind of share this out with some people may not have access to Twitch. How close am I to affiliate? I am very close. I've met my hours, I've met my days, and just this afternoon I've reached over 50 followers, and I just need to have my average above 3. And for the most part, I've actually managed to hold at least 4 people their attention on this for the most part of the stream. So we'll we'll see how that goes, if I can kind of improve things. I've definitely noticed that I keep more attention with the astronomy things. I have played video games in the past, and a couple of people have kind of come in and out, and that's not the whole purpose of this channel. It was just kind of me looking to kind of get that going. It should be any day. I do hope so, because I think it can be a tough thing if you're not going to be putting in the time. And it's for me, putting in the time hasn't been that much of a task, as it were. I'm just happy to be rambling on about astronomy and astrophotography all day long if possible. However, there is this 9-to-5 job that gets in the way, but that's fine. It's during the day, and I don't have any more solar equipment, so I'm not too fussed on that. That's it. Came back to... So you streamed games in the past and it never took off. You came back to astronomy and it exploded. I think it's just that interest in space that people have that almost some people are shy to talk about. But as soon as I've mentioned that I do this, and like, oh, I love the stars. I love looking at space. And some people are like, oh, so what's your star sign? I'm like, no. Astronomy, not astrology. That's okay. I don't fault any possible as confusion between the two, so that is all right. But yeah, there's just this, I guess everybody has some sort of interest in astronomy, and I want to try to cater to that. So our Crab Nebula is ready, and actually that doesn't look too bad for the gradient wise. Let's see. Now also see if this works, because I haven't had all my transitions working correctly. There we go. There is our Crab Nebula image. And it looks like if the moon has kind of gone behind the house, at least that direct impact on the telescope is not much of a factor at the moment. It's just kind of that overall gradient in the sky that I'm dealing with. But yeah, for those who may not be totally familiar with astrophotography, and I think Third Rock can attest to that, you have to put in the time to do your subframes for the most part. Otherwise, you're fighting a bit of a difficult battle for your processing time, and you're really fighting with the image if you're not doing all those subframes. There have been times for some images that I've shot where I haven't done any subframes and it's turned out great, and other times that it has just gone to pot, and I really should have taken the time to do more subframes for those things. It's almost as if we've become too busy with our daily lives to remind ourselves what lies beyond the magical gas bubble around us that keeps us alive. It's true. There are times, especially during any meteor showers, when I'm definitely making the time to sit out there with the scope or with the camera to be trying to capture any meteors that are flying through. It's just one of those, I don't know, it's a sense of calm when I'm looking up at the night sky, and just so many little trivial things can melt away when you're pondering just how insignificantly small we are in this, even just in our solar system, just how tiny we are. You know, it's if more people could do that, you'd kind of let go of the small things, and you know, you wouldn't you'd be more conscious of which battles you pick and just what doesn't need to be fussed over. And it's very easy to kind of come up with some philosophical moments about while talking about astronomy as well. And yeah, just the what gives me the satisfaction is all this kind of work that goes into setting everything up and making sure that the equipment's right, and you have all the everything's all set up correctly, and then everything just falls into place, and that first image comes through the camera at the beginning of the night, and it's just, it's going to be a really good night. So for me, once I started imaging, the stress of the day just rolls away. Like, it doesn't even matter anymore. I feel that. I totally feel that. And I'm going to be honest, I wasn't hoping that tonight was going to be cloudy. However, I was ready to resign myself to the fact that if it was going to be cloudy or a little bit iffy, then I wouldn't have done this stream. And I looked outside, and it was so clear by the moon and Mars, and even out to the west, there was nothing showing, and it's just that instant click of here we go, because it just fills you with that sense of calm, and it relaxes me. And really staying up for most of the night and having to work the next morning, having to get up at like 7:30, depending on traffic. I don't mind that little bit of lack of sleep, especially because I know the next few days the weather is going to be terrible, and I'm not going to be worrying about staying up as late as possible and drinking all the coffee in the house and thinking, where am I going to get more coffee? It's just those long nights that don't impact your energy levels. It just kind of brings them up even more, because then you're excited for the next night to come around, and you just can't wait. And now my coffee's done, and that's unfortunate. I might use my BRB screen in a second, or not. It's 12. It's after 12. The Crab Nebula. Here's why we're here right now. And this is actually, I think this looks better than last night's image. I haven't even done any histogram stretch on this right now. And no, I want to go closer. Close. Enhance. Too close. A little less. I've never really done a fully processed image of the Crab Nebula, and I definitely want to do one now. Just looking at this image, this is just 10 minutes that I've shot with the ASI 533, and I'm wondering just how, if I took off the focal reducer and was shooting at 1600 millimeters, how much more detail, because I would almost get double the focal length back. Just how much more detail will come out in the Crab Nebula, and will this actually, if I doing more integration, I'm just going to be able to get that detail anyway. But man, I've never really done a fair shake at this image, at this area of the night sky. Move that just a little bit. Again, for the most part, I'm probably just ripping these images apart a little bit, because you can see the noise. I am amplifying the noise when I'm doing that stretch as well, but that structure is very dominant in the image right now. Trying to see where the crab pareidolia comes from, but I'm not seeing it. So Sorry, just scrolling back in there. So it was a clear night here last night when I looked at the stars, and I could see that rapid twinkle. Didn't even bother with the DSLR. Yeah, it's I've been lucky these last 3 nights where there hasn't really been much turbulence in the atmosphere, so I'm happy with that as well. I guess we're also kind of approaching some cooler temperatures right now in the UK, so I'm not dealing with you know, any much residual heat coming off the area around here. And I've never managed to, I never imaged M1, not sure why. I was too busy with the big shinies last year. Yeah, there's tons of images that we could be shooting in the night sky, and really I think I in a way I'm happy that I have this limited window to image from, because otherwise if I had the entire sky available, I wouldn't know where to start most nights. There'd be just way too many choices. So yeah, in a way I'm kind of happy that I have this limited catalog available at certain times in the night. So we have similar weather. I think it almost has seemed the weather hasn't been varied enough between continents. You know, I still have friends and family in Canada and in the friends in the United States, and it's been very similar weather aside from some snow that I guess I saw Minnesota had recently. And we haven't had much significant snowfall in the UK, at least the last 10 years that I've been here. I think I can count any big snow days on one hand. And yeah, it's I guess in a way I'm happy I don't have to shovel a rainy day, which is all right. I don't miss that part of snow. But yeah, the weather has been, for some reason, it's felt like largely similar across the Atlantic this year, and yeah, I guess that's where kind of climate change is rearing its ugly head, unfortunately. But that's a topic for a totally different stream, which is not one that I do. So my goal is to image the whole sky. That's a very ambitious goal, and I wish you all the luck with that one, because it's a massive project, and I think that kind of dedication to an entire image will look amazing. Yeah, it's just being able to pick and then that's your own image of the night sky. You know, you're not using something like Stellarium to look at things. So yeah, it's just something you can call your own, which is kind of like what I want to do here. Is these, you know, I say these are, you know, these images are mine, but they're our images that we're taking at this time here. So you're just 2.5 hours south of Vancouver, to give you the idea. Okay, yeah, so Vancouver's weather also seems largely similar to the UK, so I guess you guys not too far away, you're going to have a very similar weather system, dealing with more rain than anything, I guess. So that's Washington State, you said, right? Not to get too specific on our locations. Right, so like I said, the Crab Nebula being a supernova that formed in 1054 AD and discovered by Chinese astronomers. Let me just get a quick little, see if there's any more information I can offer up on this. There is a lot written on the Crab Nebula. So again, being one of the popular targets in the night sky. is well documented. This is, oh my, this is a large article. So photographs, I'll do a little blurb here. Photographs taken decades apart show that the Crab Nebula is visibly expanding. By comparing its angular expansion with the expansion velocity determined by spectroscopy, the nebula's distance has been well determined to be about okay, when it says well determined to be about, let's have some consistency there. Is well determined to be about 6,300 light years. The Crab Nebula has physical dimensions of about 13 by 11 light years, and is expanding at about 1,800 kilometers per second. The visual luminosity of the nebula is more than 1,000 suns. Its total luminosity in all spectral ranges is estimated at over 75,000 suns. So this is a massively bright object, and you could even see in just my 5-second exposure, you could already see that faint smudge of the nebula there. Matt Harbin from YouTube. Great stream as always. Gotta love your transitions. Thank you. Thanks for tuning in on YouTube. Appreciate that very much. Rain, snow, and hail. So yeah, so you get it all over there then. We are looking at the Crab Nebula right now, and I'm probably going to pick maybe 1 or 2 more targets for the night, and then I think I might start to succumb to the dew formation on the scope's mirror and the meeting of the eyelids on my face. So last night I kind of finished off with the Monkey Head Nebula, which was a rousing success. And I also, the night prior, I was trying to get the Jellyfish Nebula. So I do 5 seconds. That was when I was just doing the, just to make sure that we were centered on the target there. So just seeing some of that, the nebulosity within the, that 5-second exposure was already showing great promise with this target. Now, I'm gonna, okay, let's go, because I think I'm going to finish off with Lower's Nebula, another target that I've never shot before. So I think I'm going to try and get that leading edge of the Jellyfish Nebula and try to get a good image of that at the moment. Yeah, I've discovered that Propus can be a pain in the rear, and yeah, I found that out really quick. However, I'm going to give that one a shot because it has come up above the roof line just a little earlier. Let's see. Let's give that a go. So let me save tonight's image of the Crab Nebula. And so that is IC443. And what I like has been recently added is the Sharpless catalog, and the double stars and comets have been added to the options for the ASI Air, when before we just had Messier, NGC, Caldwell, and just named stars. So kind of that addition has added a little more options. All right. Now I think the way how the Jellyfish Nebula kind of came out with this filter was almost similar to some of the eastern or the western veil. I have yet to battle Alnitak on an image, with Orion being so elusive for me in the past year, and it kind of gets above. It almost comes into view completely right now, but that's at about 2 in the morning, when I'm at the mercy of dew at the moment. So, but yeah, I think come around, actually I'll share it in a bit. I did have a cheeky last image after things kind of shut down for the night. While I was packing up, I was able to go after the Kp Nebula and yeah, get an image of that section of the night sky and the Christmas tree cluster as well. So I'll pop that up on the screen in a minute there, just to see what I got from last night. But that was a little while after the stream ended, which might have been a little too late, judging by how many times the alarm snooze was hit this morning. But yeah, let's go over to IC 443. And let's see. Now, usually I turn on the night view, the night vision for the scope, but it's actually been, everything's kind of been still illuminated enough by the scope. What is that on there? Or sorry, illuminated by the scope, by the moon. What's flapping on that? It looks like there's something on my scope, or it might just be the artifacts on the. I think it's just artifacts. Yeah. Well, let's move it, and if it moves off, then it's a bat. Let's see. All right, moving over to the Jellyfish Nebula. There may just be nothing on there. It may just be a cable. Yeah, I'm worried about that myself. I haven't pulled an all-nighter since Christmas last year. Yeah, there's been a few opportunities that I've had to stay up all night with the scope. There was, I think, more during the kind of the first national lockdown that we had. I had a stretch of about 3 weeks where every night was clear, and I was almost at a loss for what to do, or what to image. So it was, I was almost spoiled for choice for that stretch of March and April. And however, I was also kind of coming to the time when we were losing astronomical dark pretty quick, so I had limited time for dark enough skies to do some proper imaging there. Right, let's gotta frame this up a little because it goes like dead center on this nebula, and I want that leading edge because I said the focal length is just a little too tight on there. Now this would be a fairly good target with my the 72 ED refractor, because that would fit the whole thing in there, the whole structure, rather nicely. Right. Now, I want those three. Oop. I think it's that part. Actually, I may have to center it one more time and see, because like I said, I've never imaged this one before properly, and I'm just still not familiar with the pattern of the stars in here, so I'm just making sure. I haven't seen a star bright enough. I have to notice that pattern. I don't know where to center it on. And I'm thinking I gotta do a little longer exposure just to see if I can start to see some of the nebulosity there. And that is probably Propus in my guide scope right now. .3. That's, I want a little brighter than that. Otherwise, for some reason, the ASI air, it starts to lose. It can easily lose those stars if there's any real change in the conditions. A little brighter, 245. Take a, let's go 30 seconds just to make sure I have that leading edge of the kind of brighter part of the nebula in the frame. I think I do. I think it's about there. Kind of looking at the patterns of the stars there. Should have a decent shot coming up there, and I think I'll do this, and then I'm going to go over to, what time is it? It is 12:30, so let's bump up the clock to probably 1:45, because I'm going to ramble on and on about stuff there. And it looks like Lower's Nebula might be the final target of the night. Now, I did do the monkey head last night, and that turned out really well. However, I'm going to try to get as many new targets as possible in there. And I think that actually might be maybe where I want it. Let's stretch the heck out of this. Yeah, I'll take that. Let's go on that there. So it seems that the ASI Air is a simplified version to what I go through with Nina and PhD2 and Carte de Ciel. Never heard of that last one there. I am not overly familiar with Nina, but I've seen what it can do, and that seems like a pretty impressive thing there. So I have been sitting on this screen for a while, and I've been mucking about with the let's go over to the ASI Air, just kind of so you can kind of get a rough idea of what I'm looking at. So this is just my 30-second exposure on the Jellyfish Nebula, just to get an idea of what I'm looking at, making sure that I have it framed up as nicely as possible. And it seems that I got it. I'm not going to muck about with it anymore. I think that's centered as well as it's going to come out there right now, without doing like a proper orientation of things. So let's put that back to auto. We will start our exposure, and that looks like it's already going to be better placed than the night before, where I only had kind of like a tiny little corner of it. So we'll get that going, and like I said, we'll do this one image, and we'll end off with Lowers Nebula in Orion. And unfortunately, just be a little while longer until something like the Rosette or the Cone Nebula is going to be available. And even then, the Rosette might be a stretch, because it almost grazes the roof line at the moment until Orion gets a little higher in the night sky. Yeah, it's probably not until about 2:30 in the morning when the Rosette is going to actually be above a roof line for me. So we'll kind of end off on this target, which is looking to be fairly bright in the scope. And then I'll look into going into Lowers Nebula. Although, however, we are kind of approaching about four hours on the stream again. Actually, no, 3 hours on this. For some reason, the stream kind of cut out at some point, and that was about an hour in. So, yeah, we're at about 4 hours right now total that I've been banging on about this. And I do thank those who have stuck around for the better part of the entire stream, and thank you very much for that. Those of you who might be kind of peeking in on Facebook, thank you guys for sticking around over there. And those who have looked in on YouTube, that is my archive channel. I will be looking to do some more videos on YouTube specific to certain tasks and certain elements of astrophotography. And Twitch is kind of my main home for the astrophotography, because that's kind of one of those dynamic areas where people can pop in, pop out, and hopefully those who have joined are going to kind of do the same thing, pop in and pop out on the stream, say hello. And I thank all those who have followed basically since I started. A big thanks to everybody, and those who have recently followed in the past 24 hours, which has bumped me up above 50 followers, the kind of minimum that you need to start reaching that path to affiliate, where I can start offering out subscriptions and just being able to do some gestures to give something back to those who want to subscribe to my channel, and kind of help grow this astronomy community that I'm looking to build and to kind of join up with. And yeah, just be able to do what I can to share more of the night sky, and just kind of bring you guys some better images, and do what I can to keep the stream going longer, and just to add that bit of longevity, and just just be able to do what I can to improve the quality day in and day out with the stream, because there is so much more that I'm learning about this, and so much more that's always there to learn about astronomy every day, and just always wanting to grow with this, and just trying to add one new little thing here and there, improve on something with the stream. And I just don't there's a long list of what I want to do for the future of this whole stream. So it's definitely a project that I want to keep up with, and that is becoming a passion and a new direction for my passion of astronomy. is where I want to be able to take this whole experience. And hopefully those who want to come along for the ride are going to have a good time. It's just as much of a good time as I am. And I'm just incredibly happy with just how clear these skies have been in the past 3 days. And I know some crummy weather is coming up, and the forecast is showing some improvement later on. Early on next week. So there'll be a bit of a break kind of coming up, just thanks to the bad weather that's rolling in. I will be posting on my Facebook group and on Twitter the kind of the next rainy day astronomy. I do have some images lined up that I'm looking to process, so those can we can take a look at what can be done with this camera setup, and just see what these images are, because they're going to be a little more detailed beyond what we're shooting tonight, and you're just able to kind of remove that noise that comes in from the images. As much as this camera can cool things down, once you start stacking those images, that's where a lot of the detail and the rewards are going to come out for the efforts. I want to try to do maybe 2 images in one of these sessions. One a bit of a quick fire succession, and maybe do one of our 10-minute exposures. Some of them that have kind of turned out really well. Maybe I'll do something that'll look pretty interesting there. And also kind of comparing and contrasting against just editing a single 10-minute image and editing a multi-hour image. I'm just going to switch the security camera over there to the night vision mode for no reason other than I wanted to. So we are 3 minutes out from our image of the Jellyfish Nebula, which looks to be better aligned than it was the night before, or on Monday night. Let's see if I can pull up a little more information on the Jellyfish Nebula, because Sky Safari does not have a lot there. See, I think I've read a little bit of this before. So the Jellyfish Nebula, also known by its official name of IC443, just rolls off the tongue, is the remnant of a supernova laying 5,000 light years from Earth. New Chandra observations showed that the explosion that created the Jellyfish Nebula may have also formed a peculiar object located on the southern edge of the remnant, called CXOU J061705.3 plus 222127, or J0617 for short. The object is likely a rapidly spinning neutron star or a pulsar. Interesting. So, well, I probably won't be able to see that area of interest, because that is more X-ray related. However, it does seem to be that region should be possibly in our image tonight. However, I do not have an X-ray observatory in my back garden. Otherwise, the subscriptions for this channel would be astronomical. trying to get a little more information on the Jellyfish Nebula. Really, I'm getting that it's 5,000 light years away. I want to know the size of this structure. And I don't want to go to Wikipedia for the information. However, I may go to Wikipedia for this information. So it could be the remains of a supernova that occurred 3,000 to 30,000 years ago. Okay, thanks Wikipedia. So it's talking about the supernova likely created a neutron star. So that's what that was the news that came out of NASA at that point there from Chandra. So here we go. There we go. Distance of 5,000 light years, and it corresponds to a physical size of roughly 70 light years. There we go. That's all I wanted to know. Just how big this whole structure is. And it looks like our image is ready. Let me go to the... I know the Jellyfish Nebula is not well represented in Stellarium. No, I was thinking of Sky Safari. It's better represented in Stellarium. So this is what we can expect to see roughly in this image. Like we're kind of, I think I'm framed up there. And that area of interest that I was just reading about is kind of like this area. Sorry, this area right here, right in the center of that crosshair, where they believe that that's a neutron star in that section. But I'm going after this whole remnant, this leading edge, this brighter part. So let's see how that turned out. That's a much better section already than I've seen from the previous night. Like I said, that kind of that structure almost reminds me of the supernova remnant in Cygnus. Which is part of the Veil Nebula. So this thing is a little faint, so I am kind of stretching this to the maximum. But that's looking pretty cool. So out of a 10-minute image, starting to get some really good details in there. I think that that center area definitely would need more integration time overall. But that this section here, this billowing massive clouds of gas, that's really cool. Really cool to look at. So this is just a smaller kind of portion of this whole supernova remnant that I'm capturing right now. It extends beyond the reach of my sensor size at the moment. However, it's one of those objects that could do well with a mosaic or doing well with the smaller 72mm refractor that I have. That would capture this whole area of the sky in the frame, sitting at about 420 millimeters, 450 millimeters in focal length. But that's brighter than I thought it was going to be overall, and yeah, let's see how. Yeah, definitely wants being able to get rid of that excess noise, but I'm also kind of I'm amplifying the noise there. But that's the Jellyfish Nebula. Again, kind of the first real image that I've kind of snapped, or that I've captured from this one there. So I think I know I'm going to save this one. Again, we're just about, what time is it now? 10 to 1. I'm going to start imaging Lowers Nebula, and that is going to be let's see, there's that Emission Nebula. Well, let's see how that goes. So Lowers Nebula is classed as, oh, it's a sharpless catalog. Oh, cool, I get to use this for the first time then. All right, that was saved down. Good, saved. Right. Enter sharpless 261. There it is. All right. Send the scope off to sharpless 261. And it's really not that far from the Jellyfish Nebula. And this is, well, we'll see. That should show up. That should be fine. It's yeah, it's 57 degrees above the horizon. Oh, sorry, that's at 3 in the morning. And right now 42 degrees above the horizon. So yeah, that's kind of just nice enough above the roof line that it's not going to be impacted by things. And let's once again get guiding back on track here on a decent star that will take us home at the end of the I'm surprised you allow those branches to remain there. Yeah, actually, well, they're not too far. The angle of the camera makes it look like they're much closer than they actually are. I do have quite a bit of enough play for that that area there, and also if I start shooting too much to the south, my cable connecting to the 533 isn't long enough, and it actually starts to pull. So I need to get an extension for that that power cord there, or the power cable. So in a way, the tree doesn't really come into a factor for me at the moment. It's yeah, it's almost more the neighbor's house that I'm annoyed with. All right, so we are on our last image of the night. That is Lowers Nebula, which is an often overlooked area of the night sky, I believe. And I guess being in the sharpless catalog, it's not one of the more popular targets to image. But we're guiding, and let's just do. It looks like everything is aligned to where I want to be. Yeah, that's definitely the core that we're seeing just up at the top there. Yeah, and that bright edge is going to be just on the right of the image. So let's start imaging that. I will find some more information about lowers. The lower, too low, lower. All right, we are on our way with Lowers Nebula. You can hear the wind already. You can see the wind kind of kicking up now. She looks like did the guiding kind of shimmy a little bit there as well. It's all right. We're still good. We're still good. They're all doing their jobs. That's fine. See some information on Lowers Nebula. Not much. Lowers Nebula is found in the constellation of Orion. It's a large, faint region, predominantly of ionized hydrogen. The nebula is named after Harold and Charles Lower, who discovered this nebula in 1939. This luminance image is not part of the description. Right, so it is a ionized hydrogen, or H2 region. We'll see how that kind of comes up with our filter. So my yard is a wind tunnel from north to south. I am more of a west to east kind of gal. I have a significant amount of structures blocking me from the north and south, and just everything kind of whips through the gardens. And just another thing we're kind of at the mercy at. If I could build a taller fence to work as a bit of a windbreak, then I wouldn't be too fussed on things. Although for the most part, with how much the wind is blowing, it's everything is kind of held up fairly well, so I'm happy with how that's gone there. Where is Orion? Orion is, if we go over to it is where's my mouse? It would be just, so if I'm getting lowers, it's kind of just above the roof line there, and Orion itself will kind of come up at about 1:30, 2 o'clock in this area here, which will be just enough to start imaging a little bit there. Actually, like I said, I did shoot I did do a cheeky shot of the Cone Nebula last night, just after kind of things wrapped up. Oh no, where is Orion, the nebula you're shooting? Oh, where in Orion is the nebula? It is up near the arm. His free arm. So it's just up above the Cone Nebula and not too far from Betelgeuse, or Betelgeuse, depending on how you want to pronounce it. Yeah, I'm terrible with my Greek, so what star is that one there? whatever XI Orionis is, that's the closest star to that nebula. So yeah, that's let me jump over to my cheeky shot of the Cone Nebula last night, which looked pretty decent. I was happy with that. Well, it's a new follower. Thanks for following, offering free BJ. If it is blueberry jam, yeah, sure, I'll take a jar. All right, I gotta laugh. You're all right. Well, thank you very much for following and joining our unnamed community at the moment. We are looking at some live images of the night sky, and we are kind of coming up on our final image. I do have a bit of a bonus image that I shot last night before or after my stream ended. I was kind of taking down the taking everything down, but I was able to use another 10 minutes to shoot what is known as the Cone Nebula. And that is NGC 2264. Right, so this is saved as a .fit image, so it looks like I can pop these up on a Discord server once I get that going. And we'll kind of be able to get a crack at things. Yeah, it's actually, I guess it didn't save the JPEG, so that is just the fits image out of the camera. Let me see if I can find the JPEG that I saved. It was 2264. No, not an auto run. I guess that's it. For some reason, somewhere else within this is my saved image. Well, I thought I saved that as a JPEG somewhere, but it's you can see the Christmas tree shape tilting your head to the right there. And there's plenty of nebula in this area that's really interesting to look at. You can kind of start to make out the Cone Nebula there. And yeah, with a bit of a histogram stretch, it was a little better to see. I wonder where these images have gone now. Or maybe I just saved that one. But that was, like I said, that was a cheeky shot. That was about 20 to 2 in the morning, I think. Yeah, 1:49 and 6 seconds. So 10 to 2 in the morning. I'm not going to stay up that long again tonight. We'll we'll call this one done after this image. Once that comes through, this is just over a minute there for Low-Res Nebula. It's this is again one of those other targets that I haven't shot before, so I'm excited to see how this turns out. It says it's kind of, well, it's more of an H beta region. Like Third Rock could kind of confirm there, so we'll see how that comes out. Now the filter I'm shooting does pick up H beta as well as oxygen 3 in that same similar wavelength, so we'll see how that comes out. And there is, from other images I've seen, there is still some hydrogen alpha in that area, so we'll see how that comes out in the next 30 seconds there. So there have been a couple images tonight that of new targets that weren't as exciting as I was hoping for, but that's what I'm trying to do, is just look at as many images, areas in the night sky as we can, and we never know what we're going to get from this. And it is faint, but we can start. You can see just right out of the camera, we can still see some structure of that nebula there. So I think that definitely needs a good stretch. Let's see what we have. Yeah, you know, that's pretty cool. That's definitely one of again, one of those objects you got to allow for more integration time on there. But it's the first time I've actually seen Lower's Nebula imaged on my screen. I said there's seems to be limited amount of a write-up on this nebula. See if I can find just a quick little more information. Someone else has maybe written up there. Again, if it's not one of those widely popular targets, there's not a great deal of information. It is, yeah, still getting the same thing, just the two brothers that discovered it. Its size. My focal ratio is about f4.6 with the reducer on there. What's that? So it's usually the native focal ratio of this scope is f8. Yeah, so it's at 4.8 is the focal ratio on this, if the flattener and the reducer is doing its job. Now really the reducer flattener that I'm using I was just using it with my 72 ED refractor, and just on a whim I would see if I was able to get focus with this on the scope on the RC8, and everything worked out. So there's no real issues with the stars. I think I might be either a little too close or a little too far, so I just may have to adjust that spacing a little bit. But overall, I mean, stars in the corners, they're not wildly elongated or kind of curved, so fairly close to the right distance from the reducer there. But this is a pretty faint target overall, so not as attractive as, like, say, the Rosette Nebula, which is much brighter, or Orion constellation. So I can see why this image, or this nebula, could be kind of overlooked for things. So it's similar to what you'll be working with. Yeah, that should be the case there. So yeah, a couple hours. Yeah, I definitely think a couple hours on this target. Actually, I would probably say even at a minimum 4 or 5 to really be able to get some details out of that core as well. I think that is mainly, from what I've seen from some of the other images online, that's the area that's hydrogen beta in that section there. So it's yeah, definitely another target that should garner a little more attention on things, because there's so much in Orion that can take away from this, and you know, you're not going to be able to just can't compete against some of the more brighter, attractive objects in the sky. So I am using So are you using broadband filter or are you using one of the tri-band narrowband filters for a color camera? I'm using a tri-band filter for a one-shot color camera. So doing the hydrogen alpha, oxygen 3, hydrogen beta at about, like I said, about 12 nanometers each. So it's not as tight as some other filters are in the bandpass there. But for the most part, everything, you know, I'm not wildly stretching the images here. It's it does the job, especially once I start processing from this point of a stacked image. Everything comes out nice and smooth. So I'm happy with what has been produced out of this ASI 533 and the RC8 telescope. This combo has actually worked out to be pretty impressive, where some people have actually, I've seen kind of you know, give the thumbs down to this kind of setup, and I don't know exactly what they're looking to achieve with that. So it's a bit of a mystery on that part there. But we'll save that down. And yeah, we are, that's again another 4.5 hours probably worth of a stream that I thought maybe it's clear. I'll do a couple hours and call it a night. Really, if I don't stop myself. You see, I wanted to try out mono. I was really thinking about when I was going to buy a astronomy dedicated camera, do I want to do mono? And I kept coming back to the fact that I am clouded out so often that I could be sitting there with maybe the green channel for a couple weeks on end, and I'm sitting there with a black and white image with not much to do. So I have opted to go with the one-shot color, and yeah, it's serving its purpose for what I'm doing with these images, because showing some people a black and white image, as lovely as the contrast can be, I think it's there can just be a little more impact when people aren't using their imagination for what this color would look like. So yeah, that was my cloud coverage and outreach has been kind of my ultimate decision. And definitely mono cameras can be, I would have thought that mono would be cheaper than a color camera, because you're not having to add more to the sensor. But that might also be a little bit of my little tech ignorance on my part. Hey, Haskins Dustin. Dusty, good to see you in here. We're just kind of wrapping things up. We just finished off with Lowers Nebula in Orion, and yeah, we had a wonderful third night in a row with some clear skies, and I think that, like I said, the weather is going to turn on me right now. Let me double check the weather, see if it's said, nah, we'll give you one more clear night. But it looks like the clouds are going to start rolling in shortly, and up until Monday night, it looks like we are clear and calm on Monday, but the dew point is coming in early at 10 o'clock, so I'll might see if there's some money in the coffers for upgrading to the dew heater system. 10,000 US for a 6200 chroma LRGB HA. So yeah, that is quite the quite the cost. Yeah, because you got to really factor in your whole filter. It's not just the camera when you're doing mono. You definitely need those extra filters to be able to produce your color image there and get some meaningful images in the end there. So yeah, that is quite the investment when you are going mono. Whereas the one-shot color, you may need just one broadband filter out of there. Yeah, it can be tough with when you're aspiring to use this certain type of equipment. So I guess in a way some kind of compromises need to be made. And yeah, it's the nature of the hobby. We're always looking to get the best out of our equipment, and sometimes the most expensive equipment may not even be the right stuff for you, depending on hopefully it's one of those things that people realize before they fork out that much money. But it's again, that kind of comes from looking at what the community says, what other people's experiences have been. I'm a firm believer, if you buy the filters, do it right the first time. I believe that too, because from what I've got from a few other filters that I've used in the past, they were not up to snuff for what I wanted to use them for. And I think this filter that I'm using right now, a tri-band filter for a one-shot color camera, overall is doing the job for me. Some of the comas around the brighter stars I can do without. However, that's a small annoyance that I can definitely deal with for the rest of the overall image of what I've been able to achieve. With these images, whereas before, like some of my earliest images are beige from not having any kind of filter whatsoever. So again, trying to think of, or trying to research what exact filter I wanted to get was really important. And what I had first focused on was was just a broadband light pollution filter, which worked out pretty well. It still works out well for me. And that was that Astronomic XT clip filter, or the CLS XT clip filter, which has now been adapted for a 2-inch size filter that I can slot in and out with my with the filter drawer that I have. And I will see about, because when we kind of get back into Galaxy season, I'll throw that filter back in, and we'll kind of get a better idea of what we can expect with that kind of filter on galaxies that looks different versus when you shoot a galaxy with a narrowband filter, because you don't get all the details of the stars in that there. So that is going to be it for me, and I want to thank you guys so much for coming by. Third Rock Astronomy, thank you very much for the follow today, and all your input has been greatly appreciated. And thank you for contributing to the conversation tonight. Thank you so much. Dusty, thank you for popping in there. I know we kind of run up to the end of the night there. However, it's been really interesting for some of the new targets that I've captured. And I hope to see a few more, and definitely spend some more time on other targets, and maybe put together a longer integrated image for one of these targets that we've been focusing on the last 3 days. And I'm going to look to put in a post up of when I'm going to do a rainy day astronomy, probably either Friday night or Saturday night, and that'll be at 8 p.m. Greenwich Mean Time, when I'll be processing a video and just rambling on about more astronomy. So I am going to do a quick rundown of the latest followers to thank. They're offering free BJ Blueberry Jam. Thank you very much for your follow. The Aramil, Richard Dorset, TRG, Twitch1, Kiz13, James Vade, Third Rock Astronomy, Blakey106, Femies97, The Lime Trees, Shining Gammy Ains, The Combi Gamer, Obsidian King 2402. I've had a lot of people follow me today. That was joining in with a community run by The Warship, an Australian pro wrestler who is doing his own Twitch stream. And it was his community that has actually helped push me over 50 followers. And even at the end of tonight, what am I, 61 followers. And I thank each and every one of you for joining in our community. And yeah, I'm just feeling very, very grateful for those of you who are popping in and saying hello and sticking around and listening to me ramble on about astronomy and taking pictures of the night sky. So I will be definitely working towards doing more with this stream, doing more for my astrophotography. And for those who want to check out some more of my work, a lot of my images are posted up on Instagram. I will do some complaints and things on Twitter. Sorry, not complaints. I complain on Twitter on my regular account. I just do astronomy and Twitch notifications on my Twitter account, which is the Astro Canuck. I am on Instagram as Astro Canuck. And yeah, I will save all my videos on YouTube, because right now, because not being an affiliate yet, I only have 14 days worth of VODs available on Twitch at a time. So I have seen some images, some comments pop through. Just want to make sure that. All right, you are talking amongst yourselves there with your gear, but I'm interested here. You put your C8 Hyperstar rig up for sale. I see. Replaced with a Stellarium optic temperature controller. You put. Ooh. All right. Well, hopefully you can shift that equipment there soon, Third Rock, and be able to get on track for what you want to be able to achieve there. You like ramblers. Thanks, Bubba Zelnick. I'm glad more of us are streaming. Can't wait for the scope to come and I can get back into it myself. Yeah, I will. Have I followed you, Third Rock? If not, I will do that as soon as I can. And yeah, I'll keep an eye out for your bits there. Now, let's see. I'm going to, instead of my usual sign off, I'm going to see if you guys want to stick around. I'm just going to raid someone and just see how things go. I've never done it before. It's our 4 or 5 viewers, but we'll pop in. Looks like Clear Sky. Yeah, let's do that, because I'm happy to support the Dustin and Tony with the Clear Skies Network and everybody who contributes to that channel. So you've convinced the missus to read astronomy books on stream. I think reading, like sharing stories on stream is an interesting concept. I was actually kind of thinking of 4 other streams that I'm doing to kind of finish off with a chapter or a few pages of an astronomy book. I don't know. It's just one of those ideas that just to add to things if I run out of content somehow. I doubt it. But again, just to add a little bit. So yeah, we are going to, let's throw everybody else over to the Clear Skies Network. We'll see what they're up to. And yeah, let's see how that goes. Looks like Wade is doing some astrophotography in there. So I'll hit raid in a second. Thank you guys very much. I appreciate all the input. I appreciate you guys sticking around, and hope you enjoyed your night. I've definitely enjoyed things, and it's just I'm looking forward to what's coming up in the future, and I'm so excited for all the plans that I want to implement on this channel, and I definitely am looking forward to the next stream. So thank you guys very much. We're gonna go pop into Clear Skies Network, so stick around for a second if you want to give them a follow. I imagine a few of you already are, but yeah, just have a quick listen to what they're doing there. So thank you guys very much. I am Tom, I am the Astro Canuck, and have a very good day, a very good evening, or a very good night. Thank you.